Is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. And today we have on a special guest. Her name is Laura Kiernan, and she is the Senior Vice President of Investor Relations for Rivel Incorporated, and also the founder of the Raising Millions Incubator and Community. Please welcome to the show, Laura Kiernan. Hi, Laura. How are you?
Hi, Catherine. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, you're just doing amazing work in the world in so many capacities, and can't wait to talk to everybody here about all the resources that you have available to them, because there's so many underrepresented entrepreneurs out there, and you have created some great programs for them. So first, let's just talk, since you are the Senior Vice President of the Investor Relations for Rivel. Let's talk about what Rivel is before we get started about your amazing incubator.
Sure. Well, Rivel Inc. is a consulting company that it's sort of a data-backed research. So I am a senior level advisor for Rivel Inc. And I work with public companies, generally companies that are valued between 100 million on the very, very low end to maybe 100 billion on the high end. So I provide financial strategy. I work with companies on their investment theses, anything that will help them improve their perception, the perception of the company and the management team in the capital markets, which will enhance the value of the corporation.
So in other words, you help them with the perceived valuations of their company, right?
Absolutely. So one of the things I like to measure myself on is once we put a program in place for a company, can we see meaningful improvement in their valuation over a period of time, especially relative to the peer set? And it takes years for this to manifest. So but that's what I do. That's what I love to do. And that's my day job. That's my full-time day job.
Yeah. And then on your own, you've created the Raising Millions Incubator and Community. I think our listeners are going to be super interested in that, because this helps them with financial education about raising funding and their own valuations, right? So yeah, tell us about that. How do people participate in that? What does it mean? And it's a great name, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I'll just give you a little bit of background on Raising Millions and how I came about, because it wasn't an obvious thing for me to do when I first started doing it. I have been in corporate America for over 25 years. I did investor relations for 6 publicly listed companies. I've worked for 4 billionaire founder owners. And at a certain point in my career, I said, how am I going to create wealth for my family, for me, my family, my children, intergenerational wealth? And I thought, well, the number one way to do that here in America is to start your own business. And so I started my own entrepreneurial journey. I founded High Touch Investor Relations, where I worked with clients on transformative investor relations through storytelling. And I did that for 5 years. And what I found over that time was I had a real interest in working with early stage founders, which didn't really exactly correlate with public equities.
And let's just tell people, public equities are what you find on the stock exchange. They're public companies as opposed to private equity investments. So public equities is what Laura's specialty has been in, helping them to create a higher perception of valuations, right? So that when they want to do a merger acquisition or anything to take their company to the next level, this is your area of expertise. And what I love is that you wanted to take that expertise and put it into smaller companies that would be not public companies, but privately owned small companies, right? That would be individuals that are in underrepresented arenas. Let's say women, BIPOC, LGBTQ. And that's why you created this incubator and community of information to help them. So you took that amazing expertise you had in that larger arena to this smaller arena. And I think that's super cool.
Okay. So one of the things I have a unique experience having worked for these 4 billionaire founder owners. And the last owner I worked for started his company when he was 25 years old. He borrowed something like $50,000 in credit card debt, and he founded his own company, which became ultimately a $20 billion company over time. And so I really learned from that experience, along with all of the other founders that I worked for that also started out, really with nothing, that you can create your own dream. If you can dream it, you can do it, so to speak. It's a lot harder than it sounds, but it is something that we have the opportunity to do here in America. So I alongside working with these public equities, I started working with smaller startups as often as a fractional chief financial officer, helping them raise capital, figuring out where money could come from. And the biggest pain point that I found was really related to financial literacy. And if founders, founders are the experts in whatever it is that they do, but they can't necessarily speak the language of investors. So if I could be that bridge, I could take founders, help them speak the language of investors, and help them get those checks, they could grow and build their businesses.
And so that's what you've done for some companies. You've helped be that bridge. Some of the companies that are in your incubator, the Raising Millions incubator, you've helped them to bridge that conversation to help them get funding?
Absolutely. So what I focus on with founders, and I've worked with several, is really helping them tell their story about why someone should invest in their company, helping them with financial strategy. How are you going to fund your business growth over the next 5 years, for example? And also teach them how to talk to investors, answer the types of questions that investors ask. And I in order to make this accessible, I essentially recorded teach-ins on all of these topics, how to draft your pitch book and so on.
So, excuse me. So when people go to Raising Millions and join your community, they have access to that information as well as to being able to talk to you.
That's correct. So I have some free resources on raisingmillions.com, and the community is free to join. Anyone can join the community. It's a supportive community. So everyone participates and provides, a lot of times I'll post grants or loan programs or an investor that's seeking investments. And then on there, I also have courses for founders if they want to learn more about how to draft their pitch, how to come up with a basic financial forecast, how to speak to investors, how to target investors. And
I love that.
All of these things. Yes.
That's fantastic. And I know you've had a podcast also, Raising Billions, because those public companies, of course, are raising billions. But I love how you're really focused now with your raisingmillions.com on, providing resources to the smaller businesses. There's so many of them that need these type of resources. And I love that you're taking that expertise you have of having worked with billionaires who at one time were in the same position as these new entrepreneurs, and then helping them with a focus, I know, like we said, on women, BIPOC, and LGBTQ, all the underserved communities that are overlooked. How wonderful that they have this resource now. I really applaud you for putting this together.
Thank you. When I think about what my life's purpose is, it's to live fearlessly and help people see the abundance in life. And abundance is everywhere you look. It's just figuring out how to access it. And so I try to help founders be fearless and live with abundant resources and grow and build their businesses. I've had the opportunity, for example, to work with Everybody Water, it was co-founded by two women. It's an amazing company that sells recyclable packaged water and donates 3% of their revenue to installing water systems for women and girls around the world. So they contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals of gender equality, as well as, infrastructure and clean water. But at the same time, they've grown their business. I've helped them come up with a more sustainable business model. And they've grown the business more than 10 times since I've been working with them.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that story. I always love a success story, especially when it's about women. Obviously, invest in her, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much for sharing these stories and these resources. I hope people will go to your website and take advantage of that. I'm sure they will. raisingmillions.com. By the way, how the heck did you get that URL? That's amazing.
Yes, I have Raising Millions, I have Raising Billions, and I've got a lockdown on it. So yes, please
awesome.
do go and check out the resources. And there are some fundraising journeys there of companies that I work with. And, as always, just, ping me or reach out anytime.
Well, that sounds great. And I know we agree, we just are releasing a film called Show Her the Money. And it's at showherthemoneymovie.com. We're taking it on a 50-city tour around the globe. And it's about exactly this, about how women are underfunded in the venture capital world, as well as BIPOC and LGBTQ, and how we're going to change that. And we just need more women to become investors. I know you too believe this, like I do, that we need more women to be investing in all of these asset classes, venture capital, becoming angel investors in private equity, and then once being successful, also about doing what you're doing, which is giving back and paying it forward, using your knowledge and your resources to help other people become successful. I really think that's all of our purposes on the planet, is to help each other rise up. All boats rise, right?
Definitely. I agree. And I think the way that things are going in the United States right now, there's so much support for angel investors. I mean, you can become an angel investor with $100 and invest in a crowdfunding.
Yeah, I saw that you did
campaign.
a podcast about that, about the Jobs Act, and how crowdfunding is open to everyone. It's helped democratize being able to invest in other people's businesses. So if you want to get behind a woman or someone in the BIPOC community or LGBT community, look for the crowdfunder, Republic or WeFunder, or, there's several of them out there. You're right. That's a great way to get started in giving back and paying it forward and making an impact with your investments, right?
Yes, absolutely. And, ultimately this is going to create jobs, more jobs for people, for women and underrepresented people. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. And a lot of times women investors don't really realize their power. I mean, this is something I had to learn kind of the hard way growing up, is how do I go about doing this? It's part of my living fearlessly and figuring out how can I be an investor. And I invest also a lot with my time. Time is sometimes more valuable than money. And also connections, sometimes connections. It's just a matter of,
100%.
taking
It's
one
all of
hand
it.
and yeah, exactly. So, even if your check sizes are really small, you can still be an advisor, you can be a board member, you can be a connector, and support the growth. You can buy the
Yes.
products or services. There's so many different ways you can support founders.
100%. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that you and I had talked about women execs on boards. I know you're a big proponent of that. You belong to a group that's called Women Execs on Boards. And tell us just a little bit about that. Maybe there's someone out there that would like to be on an executive board and would like to know more about that group.
Well, I've been a member of Women Execs on Boards for about 5 years. And it's because I took a governance course, an executive education course at Harvard for women. It was training women to be on boards. And we rallied together as a community. There were two women, Lisa Pent and Bonnie Hageman, who came up with the idea to create a network. And essentially, all women graduating from that class have the opportunity to join. And I actually run the angel investing group within our Women Execs on Boards. So I'm also educating these women who are on boards. Generally, they're in their 50s or 60s. And it's a perfect time for them to think about reallocating their portfolio and investing in smaller businesses.
Love that. That's what our movie's about, getting more of these successful women, these women on boards to become angel investors and step outside the traditional investing of just, investing in the public market and whatnot, and actually coming into investing in private equity or venture capital. I think it's so important. It's a big business. It's a big asset class that women have really not paid so much attention to. And it's so important that we wake up and educate ourselves on how important it is that a great deal of the money made in the world is in those asset classes that we haven't been privy to. And we've got to help each other to venture out and learn more about that, right? How would one get in touch with that particular women executives on boards? I know I've been talking about this now more on my podcast because it's so important that we sit on these boards, and it seems to be more of a focus. I'm hearing more and more programs out there about getting more women on boards. There's a lot of power in that. How would one participate in that particular group that you're involved with?
Well, for our particular group, we all went through the program at Harvard. So you would have to go through the executive education, and you can just go to, Harvard Executive Education Women on Boards. A lot of these universities, I know Yale has a program for women on boards. There's got to be like 10 different organizations that support women
Right.
on boards.
Yes, I was just talking
And then
to
you can,
C-Suite, which is C-SWEET. They have a program too. And then I know there's other ones out there as well. Yeah, you just have to seek it out, right?
You have to seek it out, and you can follow us on LinkedIn. We're very prolific on LinkedIn. WEOB, I call it. So Women Execs on Boards. And just look, there's 20, I think it's now called 2030, 50% of women on boards by 2030. There is a very big movement to get diversity of thought, because diversity of thought on boards helps mitigate risk, improve returns. It's been proven to, enhance returns over time. So there are a lot of opportunities. It takes a while to sort of get a toehold in there, but you can find your way.
Great. Well, we're going to leave you all with that kind of advice about joining boards as women. And also, of course, one more time, mention that you want to go to raisingmillions.com to learn about Laura's program that will help you as women as BIPOC, as LGBTQ, have a community where you can learn about how to raise money for your business, how to grow your business. So if you're a small business owner, what a wonderful resource for you. raisingmillions.com. Laura, thanks so much for being on the show. Wonderful guest with wonderful resources. Love the work that you're doing. And yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Of course, you can find either of us on LinkedIn, Catherine Gray and Laura Kiernan. Also, we're on social media, so you can find us on Instagram, Catherine Gray at Invest in Her, and then also sheangelinvestors.com. We are on social as well. And lastly, let me just remind you that we have the movie out, Show Her the Money. We're on social, on Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn. Please follow us and go to showherthemoneymovie.com to follow our 50-city tour around the world of this movie to help empower women in the arena of investing in venture capital and getting VC funding for their businesses. Once again, it is Laura's site is raisingmillions.com. Be sure to visit it. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you, Laura, for being a great guest. Make it a great